Hey, you. Welcome to a fun conversation today about spirit guides and working with your spirit guides. I'm excited to lighten things up a little bit after our perhaps really heavy and shadowy chat that we had last week about entities. If you haven't listened to my entity episode yet, you better give that one a listen because it's really important when we begin today's episode about spirit guides that we are approaching our connections with our spirit guides from a place of discernment and understanding that when it comes to the spirit world, it's a little bit of a wild, wild west out there. And we want to make sure that when we are connecting with our guides, we are doing so from a place of understanding that there's more out there than meets the eye and that we want to make sure we are connecting with beings of light who do have our highest and best interests in mind, always, always, always. So, with that in mind, I'm excited to get into this fun chat about spirit guides today because I credit a lot of my success as a business owner, even previously to learning about the Akashic Records, to beginning to cultivate relationships with my spirit guide team. My spirit guides have really been an instrumental part of my work as a spiritual business owner and have really helped me get my business to where it is today very, very quickly. They are the ones that facilitate my connection to the spirit world, my connection to the Akashic Records, my connection to all sorts of things in spirituality. And so they have really helped me so much in so many ways get to know myself better, get to know my gifts better, and be an unending supply of love and support and wisdom for me that I will cherish throughout the course of my life. And so I want you to get to know your spirit guide team a bit better today through learning about who they are, where they come from, what they're here to help you with, and some tips and tricks towards the end of this episode that will help you connect with them yourself. So, I want to begin today by talking a little bit about my first encounter with a spirit guide and why that experience really changed my life in so many ways. I can't remember if I shared this story in episode 1, but regardless, I'm going to bring this story back up again because it truly changed my life. In this moment, this is one of those pivotal light bulb moments for me that I will never forget. And so, what happened during the pandemic was at the time I was beginning to listen to a lot of spiritual podcasts, just like this one. And on a particular podcast episode, the episode itself was all about spirit guides. So, very full circle moment for me that I'm filming this episode now after listening to another spiritual leaders episode on spirit guides. And now I get to talk to you about them myself. So, as I was listening to this episode, I was walking in my neighborhood here in Philadelphia, and it was a couple blocks away from my house. And during this podcast episode that I was listening to, the person being interviewed goes in to talk about different types of spirit guides and how to know our connection with them and the fact that they can send you signs. And as I was listening to this episode, I kid you not, it felt like someone had switched on that light switch for me. I felt just this intense knowing deep in my soul that I have spirit guides. It felt like a core memory unlocked in that moment. Oh my God, spirit guides, yes. And it brought me back to my time navigating spirituality as a kid, as a preteen, learning about it and wanting to develop a connection with spirit guides at that age. Little did I know that I had a connection at that time, but just wasn't aware of how guidance was coming through for me then. And we'll talk about that in a little bit and how to recognize when guidance is coming through for you later on in this episode. But for the purpose of sticking with the story, as I was listening to this episode, I knew in that moment I have to discover this for myself. I have to connect with my spirit guides immediately right now. Not tomorrow, not in an hour, right now. And I kid you not, I pivoted on my heel. I ran back to my apartment here in Philly and immediately got on my laptop, went on YouTube and found a Meet a Spirit Guide meditation. And that was one of the most profound spiritual experiences I have had to this day, because during that meditation, sitting there at my kitchen table with my eyes closed, I began to hear the voice of one of my spirit guides in my head. And that voice came through in an accent, in a tone of voice that was not my own. So it was very clearly from something else wasn't coming from me. And the voice was telling me all of these messages of, you are so profoundly loved. You are here to change the world. You are such an incredible soul. You are a miracle. You are a gift. And so many things that I feel like I had been longing to hear for a lot of my life, but never really perhaps got, those words of affirmation from my parents throughout different points in my life. And of course, from my romantic partner and all of these things. But the way that the messages came through, it just felt like something I had been needing to hear for so, so, so long. And I remember just having tears of joy streaming down my face during that spiritual experience, because it felt like I had finally made that connection. And I felt like, holy cow, this is it. This is real. It felt so real to me. It was not one of those experiences where I felt like, oh my God, am I crazy? Am I making this up? It felt so real and true in my body at that moment that I knew that I fully had to surrender to the spiritual journey, fully surrender to this experience, and fully surrender to my own gifts and what they wanted to tell me. So that experience really led me to a deeper understanding of my own gifts. Now, the voice of the spirit guide speaking to me in my head during that experience is a psychic gift called clairaudience. That is my main spirit gift and the main gift that started developing for me along my spiritual reawakening journey. So this is the gift of being able to hear spirit in my head. I don't typically hear voices with my physical ears, although I will have experiences where I feel like someone is saying my name and I look around and there's no one here, even if I'm in my apartment alone or even in a crowd somewhere. I feel like someone's looking for me and I'm looking around and there's no one even yelling the name Emily. So that's an experience where I'll hear something with my physical ears. But usually I receive the messages from my guides in my head. I've had a strong running inner dialogue throughout all of my life. And so when I'm receiving messages from my guides, it's like a dialogue, a conversation that I have with them. Now, thinking back to my childhood and thinking back to some of my first moments recognizing the spirit world, now that I'm able to look back to those times, I realized that when I was talking to imaginary friends in my bedroom as a kid, I wasn't talking to myself. I wasn't talking to something imaginary. I was talking to something very, very real in the form of my spirit guides. And so now I'm able to look back at that, and maybe you too, maybe clairaudience is a gift for you that you're aware of, or one that's going to start opening up for you after listening to this episode. But this is a very profound gift because it allows us the connection with spirit guide communication. I'm going to talk briefly about some of the other psychic gifts here, just so that you can get an understanding of how, when you speak with your guides, how your gifts may come through. We also have clairvoyance, which is the gift of psychic sight. Now, clairvoyance sometimes can be seeing things with your physical eyes, but I find that for me and most people, that is not the case. With clairvoyance, I am able to see visions in my mind's eye. So it feels like I'm watching a movie scene unfold behind my eyes. When I see a past life, for example, when I do an Akashic Records reading, I am seeing that memory, that past life memory unfold like watching a movie. Or I will see, if I'm doing a mediumship reading, I will see the face of a loved one in my mind's eye. So that's the gift of clairvoyance. You may see things in your head. Next, we have claircognizance, which is the gift of clear knowing. So with claircognizance, you're going to know things to be true. It feels like you just have this sense of awareness of, yes, that is true for me. That's what I felt when I was listening to that podcast episode. That day during the pandemic, I knew deep in my bones that spirit guides were real and that part of my purpose is to connect with them. I knew that to be true. So you may have had moments throughout the course of your life where you just had this deep sense of knowing, like, I shouldn't go to this event on this day, and you don't go. And it was a day where there was maybe the event got canceled or there was a crazy storm and the event would have been horrible anyway. Or maybe you just knew heading to work that you needed to bring an umbrella with you. And sure enough, it did rain. Or moments like that where you just know something, you have that gut feeling. That's claircognizance. And finally, of the main 4 psychic gifts, we also have clairsentience, which is clear feeling. So you may feel emotions and energies connected to your spirit guides. It is a gift very directly linked with empathy. So if you're a very empathic person and you just have feelings about things, this is going to be definitely a gift for you. So you may get senses in your body. You may have a feeling about a situation in your life, or a feeling about how something will turn out, or a feeling of love that you receive from your spirit guide team. There are other different types of psychic gifts other than those main 4, including clairalience and clairagence, which are the gifts, and clairaugustance, which are the gifts of clear touching, clear smelling, and clear tasting. And those gifts are not things that I tend to work with a lot in my practice. But if you are interested in them, definitely do a little bit of Googling because I find them to be very, very fascinating. So let's dive into a little bit more about who our spirit guides are. And therefore, once we learn that, we can talk about how we can start working with our guides. So our spirit guides, we do not just have one guardian angel or one single guide that's here to work with us throughout the course of our life. We actually tend to have a team of guides who, some of which have been assigned to us at birth, who will be with us throughout the course of our whole life. But some guides we have that come and go during different ages and stages of our life. So maybe we have a whole set of guides that comes in when we go to college, and then a whole new set of guides who come in when we start our young adult years, and then a new set of guides when we get married, and then when we have kids, and so on and so forth. We may have guides that come and go depending on what we're working on throughout the course of our life. So we really have a whole team. I like to call it a spirit team because they are supporting us and they are guiding us from behind the scenes. Even if you don't know that they exist, they are there. And here's the thing, because spirit guides and us as human beings, we have to abide by the universal law of free will that is part of planet Earth and the structure of planet Earth. It is a planetary law here for light beings like us. Our spirit guides have to be given permission in order for us to be able to work with them. So the first step in connecting with your guides is that awareness piece. You have to become aware of them. So if you're thinking to yourself, well, I've gone my whole life and I've never gotten a sign from them, and how do I know that they're real? It's because they're there, they're watching over you, and they may be protecting you in a way, but they may not directly be able to help you as much because you haven't given them permission to be able to help you and support you. So now that you know that they're there, we're going to set the intention now that you're going to give them permission to work with you in a perhaps more direct and more a way where there's more open communication from this point forward. So again, now that you know that they're there, I want you to start to think about your spirit guide team as being a relationship that you need to cultivate. So the example that I always like to give my psychic development students is I want you to think back to a friend that you had in grade school, someone that you're not in contact with anymore, but that was a good friend of yours in grade school. If you were to give that person a call on the phone right now, do you think they would want to help you with something random that you have going on in your life? If the answer is no, for most of us, it's going to be no, which is why I give that example. But if the answer is no, I want you to realize that your spirit guide team, who, yes, they're here to help you, they love you, they're here to guide you. But if they don't know you yet, if you don't have a relationship with them yet, they may be less likely to want to intervene on your behalf and to help you and give you more direct guidance because you haven't developed that relationship yet. It is a two-way street. Sometimes we sort of sit on our spiritual throne and we're like, spirit guides, do this thing for us right now. But then I want you to realize, like, how would that feel if you were being bossed around yourself? You probably wouldn't like it so much, right? So I want you to approach your relationship with your spirit guides from a place of love and compassion and openness and curiosity, and not from a place of wanting to control or force or, wanting to like push for extreme change in your life in this now moment. This is a very delicate process. It's a beautiful process. Just like any new relationship, any new friendship, it takes time to bloom and grow into something strong. And it also takes time to develop trust, especially for you as a human being, because your spirit guides are non-physical. It's going to take a certain amount of trust for you to really lean on them and lean on them and lean on the fact that they're real so that, again, you can give them permission to support you and trust that that will actually follow through and you'll actually get the help and support that you need. Now, before we get into the different types of guides, I do want to say a few words here about discernment. So, when you're beginning those relationships with your spirit guides, I want you to be very cautious at first. Again, we're talking about trust. We need to make sure that we're working with the right guides first and foremost. I want you to approach your relationships with your spirit guide team from a very cautious point of view until you begin to foster that relationship and you really start to get to know them. So, if you're not familiar with the word discernment, it basically means your ability to be able to open up your conscious awareness, to be able to perceive, understand, and recognize different types of energy in the spirit world, and to be able to discern whether that type of information that you're receiving is for you or not, whether it resonates with you or not, and whether or not it's for your highest good. So, when it comes to connecting with the spirit world, especially if you're new to meditating, you're new to maybe opening your channel and wanting to connect, you may be putting yourself in a little bit of a precarious position if you're not protecting your energy and if you're just wanting to connect with anything out there without really being discerning about what's there. So, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks for this in order to make sure that you're connecting with spirit sources that are of a high vibration, that do have your highest and best interests in mind. So, what you're going to do is when you are in that meditative state, you're going to start by setting an intention of, I want to connect with my spirit guide team of the highest vibration of love, light, and truth. Once you have set that intention and you're in your meditative state, you feel like you're connecting with something. Maybe you feel like you're receiving a message. Maybe you're seeing something with your clairvoyance, or you're hearing a message with your clairaudience, or you're feeling a feeling in your body. You're going to begin to facilitate a dialogue with that spirit source. I suggest that you ask for its name. And I suggest if you ask if that being is of the highest vibration. If you receive a yes, great, continue forward. But if you receive a no or no response, I want you to ask that spirit to leave your space immediately. You need to be very clear with the spirit world about your boundaries. So if you feel unsafe or uncomfortable at any point, you're going to need to ask that guide to get out of your space and to leave immediately. Now, if you do receive a yes, then great, congratulations. We can continue on with the relationship. And you're going to want to facilitate that dialogue just like you would a conversation with a friend that you're getting to know. You're going to want to ask questions like, what do I need to know about you to get to know you better? How do you want to work with me at this time? How can you best support me? And what guidance can you share with me today? Now, I'm going to be giving you some different methods of connecting with your guides that you can try after listening to this episode. But before we do, I want to talk about some of the different types of spirit guides that we have. Now, a reminder that we live in a vibrational reality. So, all of our different spirit guides exist in a different vibrational energetic capacity. We may, depending on who we are at a soul level, we may have different types of guides on our team because of our soul's previous relationships in past lives. So some of us may have a deeper connection to some of these guides than others. So as I share some of these different types of guides with you, I really want you to lean into your body and how you feel when I talk about these different types of guides. The ones that you feel really good about, excited about, those are ones that you have a deep connection to. And the ones where you feel more neutral or, not really into this, those are the ones that may not be meant for you at this time or just may not be an involved part of your spirit team. So we all have something, we all have a guide that we call our higher self. Your higher self is the unlimited eternal version of you who knows all aspects of you from all of your different lives. So your higher self is you. They are a higher version of you. And because of that, your higher self is a great guide for leaning into to help you with growth and development in all areas of your life. So I always tend to lean on my higher self for helping me pave the way for my future goals, my future dreams, and making sure that I'm sort of staying on my best soul path. So that's your higher self. Next, we have guardian angels. So guardian angels are typically assigned to us at birth, and they are our physical protectors. Our guardian angels are with us for our entire life, and their role is to protect us throughout the course of our life and make sure that we are, to the best of their ability, not getting into physical danger or physical trouble. So if you've ever had a near-death experience or a moment where something could have gone horribly wrong and you were saved in the nick of time, that was likely a guardian angel if you are stepping in on your behalf. Because guardian angels were assigned this role, they are one of the only groups of guides that can intervene on our behalf and do not need to follow that law of free will. So they can step in for us if it is part of our overall soul's plan to be able to help us. So I know that can open up a lot of conversations around, well, I know this person who was in this accident and where was their guardian angel at that time? That's a whole conversation for another day that we don't have time to get into during this episode. But what I want you to know about this is that if your guardian angels can intervene, if they can help you, they will. So know that you do have that physical protection to support you throughout your life. Next, we have other types of angels, specifically the archangels. Now, the archangels are what I refer to as collective guides because they don't just work with one of us, they work with many of us. They have the ability to be able to work with many people at one time, perhaps millions of people at one time. Some common examples include Archangel Michael, Archangel Raphael. I think some of us who have had a religious background are pretty familiar with the archangels. The archangels are sort of like the big guns of our spirit guide team. They protect us like our guardian angels, but they also can help us with bigger things than that. The archangels are seventh dimensional beings and beyond, and they are literally at the top of the angel hierarchy. So I am bringing them forward now at the beginning of this spirit guide chat because a lot of us know about them, and they may be some of the first guides that you choose to work with because of how well known they are and how easy it is for many of us to connect with them. I have a very angelic energy. I've spent lifetimes of mine in the angelic realm. So I have a really deep connection to the archangels and to other angelic beings. So for you, if you feel really called to working with the archangels may be a really great place for you to start out with. They're really great with healing. They're really great with giving general life advice, guidance, all of those sorts of things. They can help us with protecting our energy, clearing our energy, healing from different traumas, and are just really beautiful high vibrational guides to lean on, especially if you are just getting to know your spirit guide team. So now that you know about some of the angels, and there are other types of angels out there, again, this is a long conversation, but I want to do my best to cover as many things as I can in this podcast episode. Let's talk a little bit about actual spirit guides. So there is a whole piece of our spirit guide team called our spirit guides themselves, who are fifth dimensional beings that have actually lived human incarnations here on planet Earth. They are part of our soul family. Our spirit guides are beings who are not angelic in nature. They haven't reached that hierarchy yet, but they have lived human lives. And because of that, they are really great with helping us navigate this human experience because they know us. A couple of my spirit guides that I'm aware of were either a brother or a sister of mine in a past life, or were people that I had really strong connections with in other lives, spiritual teachers, etc. And so your spirit guides are going to be, again, higher dimensional beings who lived lives on earth, but are assigned to you and you alone. Your spirit guides are not going to be working with your next door neighbor or me or someone else in your family. They are going to be working with you and you alone because they have they have soul contracts to work with you specifically. And again, they're great with helping us navigate more human life experiences and guidance for getting through this human existence, like career guidance, life purpose guidance, relationship guidance, etc. Next, we also have, if we're talking about this category of human guides who have lived lives here on earth before, we also have our ancestor guides and loved ones on the other side. So we have ancestor guides on our spirit team who may have been people that we never met in this lifetime, but may be connected to your bloodline. We can also have ancestor guides who are, or were, I should say, ancestors of ours in past lives. So these may be great, 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 great grandmothers, either from this lifetime or a past life, ancestors who helped us through specific traumas in past lives, or who were an instrumental part of our spiritual training in past lives, or even ancestors from this lifetime, from your biological ancestry now, who were spiritual or who helped or who did something major to help your family line. And perhaps they're here to help you heal your family line through doing some ancestral work and some ancestral healing. So your ancestor guides are going to be the guides who are here to sort of help you, again, with more human things, but also to be able to help you do some of that deeper karmic healing and maybe to do even some healing around your ancestral lineage. And getting from there, now we're going to talk about your loved ones on the other side. So your loved ones who you had a close relationship with in this lifetime can absolutely play a role as spirit guides on the other side. My uncle, who I talked a lot about in the mediumship episode, is definitely a spirit guide of mine on the other side and is definitely helping me with my work. Our loved ones can absolutely support not just you, but your other family members as well. And they can be really great because they know you well, but now that they have a higher perspective from going through their life between life review process, which we talk about in the mediumship episode, now they know and have a better understanding of your life's purpose and can really help support you in navigating that. So absolutely, your loved ones on the other side can be a really important part of your spirit team. But if you didn't have a great relationship with someone who's passed over, I don't want you to get caught up or worried that perhaps they're trying to control you beyond the grave or, are some negative spirit guide on your team. It's probably unlikely. So don't worry about that. But what I do want you to focus on are those people that you do love and who really did care for you, who could be helping you from the other side. Next, we can also have spirit animal guides, which I love because I have a really good close connection with animal energy. I know a lot of my clients do. So if you have a really strong connection to animals, you see animals everywhere, maybe you have a lot of pets, you may also have spirit animal guides. Spirit animals tend to represent different things. Each animal represents a different energy. So depending on what you're going through in your life, perhaps you need one specific energy because of what you're navigating. you may have a spirit animal on your team who supports that. For example, let's say you're a student, you're deep in your studies right now. You may have an owl spirit guide on your team because owls represent wisdom. If you're a business owner, let's say, and you're really learning how to navigate your personal power, you may have a lion or a tiger on your spirit guide team because feline cat energy there's a really strong connection there to personal power. So, depending on what you're going through, and even depending on maybe the animals that you love, let's say you love horses, have a strong connection to horses, you may have some horse spirit animals on your spirit guide team. Next, we have your galactic guides. So I love talking about the galactic guides. Obviously, I filmed a whole episode about your connection to your galactic team. And depending on what star systems your soul is from and has connections with, you are going to have galactic guides from those specific lives. So, yes, of course, we have galactic members of our spirit guide team. Next, we have the ascended masters and goddesses. So, these are collective guides that work with many of us, not just us individually. The ascended masters are spiritually enlightened beings from the sixth dimensional frequency and above who are very highly evolved and have reached such a high level of evolution that they no longer need to incarnate in physical form. So, if we're comparing them to your classic spirit guides are still going to need to live some physical lives in order to reach their soul's overall evolution, growth, and enlightenment journey. The ascended masters have already reached that point. So, when we think about ascended masters, we think about beings that we know, especially in popular culture, who were spiritual teachers in different ways. So, we can think of the Greek gods and goddesses. We can think of the Roman gods and goddesses, so the equivalent of the Greek and the Romans. We can also think of the Norse god and goddesses. If you were raised in a Christian household or a Catholic household, you may have a strong connection to Jesus or Mother Mary or Mary Magdalene. If you were raised in or participated in other schools of belief, such as Buddhism, you may have a connection to Buddha. Or if you were raised in Hinduism, you may have a deep connection to Lakshmi or some of the other Hindu gods and goddesses. So, when I'm talking about ascended masters, I am roping them all into one category of spiritually enlightened beings and spiritual teachers who, again, have reached the point of enlightenment that they no longer need to incarnate here. And they are so powerful. I love working with ascended masters and goddesses because they are so advanced in their teachings that they, of course, are so wise beyond their years. I mean, if we think of Jesus as such an incredible example, Jesus was such a master teacher of love and deep love for self and other, and loving somebody else, loving the other as if you were to love yourself. So that's a really beautiful example of working with an ascended master who can help you with something specific like love. Or if we think of some of the other ascended masters, let's say Goddess Isis, an Egyptian goddess, is such a powerful example of the divine feminine and working to master your divine feminine energy. So she's a beautiful being who can help you with that. Goddess Lakshmi, a Hindu goddess, incredible example of abundance and money mastery. So if you're working on manifesting more abundance, you're going to want to work with Goddess Lakshmi. Goddess Freya, a favorite of mine to work with. She is a warrior goddess, so she is excellent at helping you with boundaries and protecting yourself and making sure that you are being clear with your communication and speaking your truth. So those are just a few Ascended Master guides that I would like to mention. Oh, and of course, the main guide that I am working with from this group is Merlin. So I've been working a lot with Merlin over the last couple of months and really getting to know his energy better. And Merlin is an incredible guide to work with when it comes to, first of all, having fun. He's hilarious, but also magic, alchemy, healing, and transformation in deep ways. Obviously, that's what I do. So he is such an incredible guide to be able to help me do just that. We also can have elemental guides. So, if we have a really strong connection to nature and the natural world, we're going to want to be connected to the elemental realm, such as your fairy guides, elves, water nymphs, mermaids, all of these different types of beings. Elemental guides, again, really help us deepen our connection to Mother Earth and the way that we take care of this planet. And also, they can really help us understand ourselves better at a soul level if we have had lives in some of those different realms, like the fairy realm, the elf kingdom, the mermaid kingdom, et cetera, et cetera. And finally, the final group of guides that I will bring to your attention today is temporary spirit guides. Again, we can have guides that come and go throughout the course of our life. Sometimes, if we're mastering a new skill or we need help with something in a pinch, we can call on temporary spirit guides who can assist us and help us with different things. They can do wonders with connecting us to the right people, the right resources, the right things that we need in order to achieve a goal or task. And they can help us with silly things like getting a parking spot or manifesting the perfect amount of change in order to be able to pay a bill that you have, or even setting the intention to, if you have a specific task that you need help with, like writing a book or baking a cake or something specific that you need, you can call on your spirit guides to be able to support you with those small tasks that you need help with. So that's an introduction to all the different types of guides. I do have a workshop in my membership that's called the Spirit Guide Workshop. So if you go and join my membership now, it's $44 a month. You're going to get access to that Spirit Guide Workshop that goes in so much more depth. And also, there is a meditation at the end of that workshop where I teach you how to connect with a spirit guide through a guided meditation experience. So you're going to want to check that out. I also have a shorter version of that meditation available for free on my YouTube channel. So I will drop the link for that below in the show notes. So I want to leave you with a couple of tangible tips and tricks for connecting with your spirit guide team. Number one, asking for a sign. What I want you to do after listening to this episode is I want you to pick a sign that you would like to receive from your spirit guide team. I want you to pick something specific that is relatively unusual, something that you're not going to see commonly in your environment all of the time, and something that if you saw it would really catch your attention and really make you go, oh my gosh, I got my sign. I know what this is. So pick something specific and a little bit unusual and something uncommon that you can set the intention for. So you're going to pick your specific sign. What I want you to do is I want you to write down in a journal, Spirit Guide Team, I would like for you to send me this sign, and you're going to insert the sign that you want over the course of the next 7 days. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So after you do that, I want you to go off with your normal day and see what happens. And you may see that sign come up in an unexpected way after listening to this episode. So that's number one, asking for a sign. And then number two is going into meditation and setting the intention to connect with them, just like I shared with you earlier in this episode. You may want to do that through fully being in meditation with your eyes closed, or even with your eyes open and a journal in front of you to write down any messages that you receive. It's a really beautiful way to begin connecting. You can also connect with your spirit guides through pulling oracle cards and tarot cards. So if you want to get your hands on an oracle card deck or a tarot card deck that really resonates with you, you can find some on Amazon or at your local spiritual shop. That can be a really great way of connecting with your guides. And finally, you can also connect with your spirit guides in your dreams by setting an intention of something specific that you want to learn throughout your dreams, writing it down before you go to bed, sleeping, and then when you wake up in the morning, revisiting your dreams, writing down, journaling about them, and seeing if you got a message. So I know I just threw a lot at you. This podcast episode was jam-packed with information about connecting with your spirit guides. I hope this podcast episode excites you about the possibilities of how many guides you have on your team and about getting curious about who they are and who your guides could be for you and your connection to them. And I hope that this encourages you to start creating your own ritual for yourself to connect with them, whether you're sitting in meditation a few days out of the week, you're journaling and connecting with them through writing, or maybe even pulling a few cards for yourself every day. Creating some sort of ritual for yourself around this is going to help facilitate that connection. And if you want to go deeper into this, I have a couple of options for you. So, number one, get into the membership. The link will be in the show notes below so that you can watch the Spirit Guide workshop where I take everything you learned in this episode and I go even deeper into all of it and then lead you through a guided meditation experience to meet with a spirit guide on your spirit team. Number two, you can purchase my Intuition Activation Academy course on my website. It is an 8-week self-paced virtual psychic development and mediumship course that will take you more deeply into this content. There are so many meditations in that course that will lead you to meet with different types of guides. Everybody from your galactic guides to your ascended master guides to your higher self to your guardian angel. You will get to meet all of them in all the different meditations that I throw at you in that virtual course. And the virtual course is available on my website year round. So you can join at any time, get started today if you want, get in there and go through the material. It will, I promise you, change your life if you're wanting to dive more deeply into this process. And finally, if you want to step into a one-on-one mentorship with me, I include the Intuition Activation Academy as a bonus gift for you for stepping into one-on-one mentorship. And it's something that I encourage all of my one-on-one mentees to go through on their own time so that we can talk about your experiences and I can coach you through it and guide you through it in one-on-one mentorship and through my Voxer chat access that I give all of my one-on-one mentees to be able to access me for questions in between client sessions. So I will also leave the link for that below in the show notes if you're feeling called to step into one-on-one mentorship and deepen your connection with your spirit team and your guides. So I hope you enjoyed this episode and all of the information in here. Your spirit guides love you so much and they cannot wait to connect with you. Sending you love, and I'll see you in the next episode.